Hi, I've been following along with Paul McWhorter's AI for Everyone videos. Today we were on lesson 10. Paul was showing us how to handle mouse events in OpenCV. He gave us homework for today of using the mouse to select a region of interest in our video and then have it show that region of interest in another window. He also wanted us to use the right mouse button to get rid of that window. I don't know whether he ever told us about how to get rid of a window, so I had to do a little bit of reading and learning how to do that over at the CV, the OpenCV document section, a web page. It's been definitely a 2-cup kind of day, but I think I got everything under control, at least figured out a way of doing it. Not sure if it's the same way Paul will show us, but it's been interesting and a lot of head scratching and learning going on today. So that's really a good thing. So let's get over to my code. So we knew we wanted a region of interest. So first thing we know what we need, the data we need to create a region of interest is we need to know our start column and our end column, our start row and our end row for our region of interest. So I created variables for them. So I also figured that we were going to need a couple flag variables to figure this out. I thought I'd only need one, but I ended up needing two, just the way it worked out. So to show the ROI and not show it, I have that show ROI. And you can see I ended up putting the ROI exist flag in there as well. I'll get to that in a little bit. So anyhow, Paul was showing us how we do this mouse click event handler, and showed us what the mouse, what Windows gives you for that event. It gives us the number of the event and the X position, Y position of the mouse at the time, and some other info that we didn't need, but we have to account for in our handler. So basically that's what we did. We created our variables up here, but we had to declare them as global if we're going to use them in our handler. That's important because I tried to do it without it and it definitely doesn't work. Shows errors all over the place. So you have to include the global part as well as declaring them up top. I tried it both ways, doing one or the other. You have to have both. So we got that going on. So basically, Paul wanted to when you put your mouse down, that it started the upper left corner of the region of interest, and then you drag your mouse down and to the right, and when you let go, this is get your region of interest top start and row, column and row here. When you press your mouse down, that's event 1. And then when you, like I say, you do your drag and then with your button down, and then when you let up on your button, you get this event 4, and it gives you your end and end column and end row. I found out real quick that you have to account for if you go the wrong way, because you need an end that's positive and that both ways in reference to the start. If you don't have that, you get errors and ends your code real quick. So I put this if statement in there to make sure that you get, you have your numbers that are going to work for your region of interest. And if not, I just don't count the region of interest, and I print to the terminal that that your clicks were not valid. So we did that. And he also wanted us to have a right mouse click, which is a 5. That's a 5 for mouse down, right mouse down, button down. And that's just to tell it that not to show the region of interest. And I'll get to how those flags work a little bit farther on. Anyhow, so we got that. That's your mouse handling part. So now we'll get down into, this is our standard template for how we get a frame on the screen. And then in the while true part, we also learned how to do the mouse callback. So we have to name our screen. As Paul said, we need to name our screen before we can use that in our mouse callback, set mouse callback event handler. So you can say this just takes us back up to that top frame up there. So top handler. So that happens anytime you move your mouse or click your mouse or whatever. So then in your while true, we just basically do our basic frame and show the frame on the screen. And then, like I said, from our mouse click up there, when we end up with a valid ROI from our logic up here at the top, so we get a positive X, we get X and a Y from the mouse down and then the mouse up, and then we do our test up here. And if our test is right, then we change our flag to ROI true. So that's the only time it does it shows the ROI is after you get a valid frame. So once you got your valid numbers, you come down here and it just creates a valid ROI from the numbers that we got up to the top, and then we're just showing it. So that was all fine, but then we had to figure out how to get rid of it. So like I said, I did some reading, and the way I came up with is CV2 has a destroy window method. So you just put that in there, and then you tell them what window you want, or what window you want to destroy. So I said, okay, well, we'll do that real quick. And that was okay, but there has to be a valid window called my ROI open. So I had to, you get an error real quick because, you're in your while true thing. So if you keep trying to destroy this over and over again, it doesn't really work, and it throws an error real quick on that. So that's where this ROI exists comes in. So anytime that we're making this ROI frame and showing it, each time through, we just set this flag to true so that it has the true. But when you want to get rid of it, we only want it to, we want to be able to tell whether that ROI is existing still. So we come down here, and if you have an if and an else. So if your show ROI is false, then it goes to the else. But we also test to see if the ROI exists. And if it does exist, then the flag is set. You'd think that there would be a way that it would test for that on its own and not destroy it if it didn't find it, but it throws a error and jumps out of the program. There may be a different way of doing it, but I couldn't figure that out. So I just set a flag, and so I destroy the window, but then I immediately set the ROI exist to false so that the next time through it doesn't try to destroy it again and throw an error. So that's basically all we're doing on that. So I can show it in operation, I think. So hopefully it comes out. So we have our basic frame here with yours truly in the frame. So you just click and hold and drag down and to the right, and you get a frame, get a ROI, region of interest. And we can make another one up here. And now it's a different region of interest, and got to show it up there. So, and you can just keep doing it all day long. Now, if you have a narrow one, you see you got the region of interest there, but then you got a blank screen. I think that there has to be a minimum width to show the parts of the window header up there. So if you go narrow, it'll only pull the narrow frame, but it'll show a gray area over here that's not part of it. And if you do a narrow one that way, you're fine. But if you can do a narrow one that way. But like I said, I did this not valid ROI. So if you happen to go the wrong way, I end up, not that you saw it that time, but it shows that it's a not valid ROI down here in the terminal window. Let's see if I can get it to show. Yeah, so you got not valid ROI is down there in the terminal. If it goes the wrong direction, just doesn't do one. So if you do a correct one, it does it right. If you mess it up, it tells you no, there's none to be had. So that worked out well, and that pretty much took care of the homework. Oh yeah, we got to show that the right click destroys it, and the right click destroys it. I forgot to show that. So then you can get rid of it with a right click. So, and as I said, I'd always like to try to think of different ways and better ways of doing it. A couple things that I didn't like on this one was that you really didn't know where you were pulling your ROI from. And again, you had to look in the terminal window to see, oh, I must not have had a valid ROI. So I basically said, well, what can I do to fix those two things? So I got a modified one here that we have. And basically what I came up with is that I was going to draw a rectangle while you were holding your mouse button down, and do that. And also, rather than having not a valid, not having it test for valid and just tell you didn't have it, the best way to do that was just to have the mouse button, the XY coordinates of your mouse, just to have them as a positive, and use those if it's valid. But if not, we could also substitute in this substitute in just a +1 on our column. So as we're showing our rectangle, we our n column of our ROI and our n row shows the x position if it is greater than the start position. If it's not greater than the start position, we just show the n column becomes the start column +1. So basically, if you're backwards on your x and your y, you're going to just end up with a 1 pixel ROI, and the rectangle will show that it's basically a dot or maybe a 4 pixel rectangle, or a 1 pixel rectangle. So basically it's all the same. I added another flag for show rectangle, which we do. Like I said, I added this, I changed it to mouse event rather than mouse click, because you are actually getting, when you're doing this, you're also, anytime you move your mouse, you're getting a 0 position, as you see down here. I was printing out the movements of the mouse, and anything that's a 0 is just a move. Anytime you move the mouse at all, it's going to give you another just a 0, but then an X and Y coordinate. So if I was drawing my rectangle, if, once well, let me go down here a little bit and show you. So if I start my rectangle, if I mouse down anywhere on the screen, I am getting the X and Y position as the start row and start column. And to see our rectangle values, I also put a +1 and a +1 for the Y and the X. I did that. I didn't start out with that, but I was getting some errors because you're actually not you're not getting the show rectangle until the next time around, the next time you move your mouse. So it was I was getting errors for that. So you actually have to make your rectangle, seed it with the values, starting values, so that it draws properly the first time through here. And then, like I said, I turn off my region of interest, because if you noticed on my last one, when I click my mouse down, the region of interest disappears until we get all the info we need to draw it. And then also on here, I made my rectangle true. So I go to my, so that follows through. So it's a global variable as well. So it'll stay that way until you change it. Basically it just drops through your event handler and goes down to the bottom. And but when it comes back around for the next one's going around, if we're showing our rectangle, which means I got my mouse button down but not back up again, it's going to take whatever the X position of the move and the Y position of the move, and that's where we just record it, or we make it just a small rectangle, either way. And then when we finally get around to releasing our mouse, we get the button, our event 4, and we do the same thing just in case when that comes around that it happens to be out of bounds. We want to make sure that it's a valid rectangle and a valid region of interest as well. So we have our values there. And then once we do that, we make our region of interest, show region of interest as true, and we don't need the rectangle anymore, so we make that a false. And then we still have our right mouse button will delete the frame. So basically everything's the same down here. The only thing I did is I put one if statement, and if the show rectangle is true, I just draw a rectangle at our, as we're mouse is down and doing that, and basically everything else is exactly the same on there. So it makes it a little bit more intuitive to use. So we'll show you how it's used here. All right, so basically we have our region, our thing come up, and but instead, if we want to draw a region of interest, we draw our rectangle, and it shows the rectangle that you have. So if I have a coffee cup up here, I could draw it around the coffee cup. Of course, if you move the coffee cup out of the frame, it's gone, but same way. But now so the rectangle certainly helps you to frame what you want. So if you want an eyeball or something, again, it's just a small one, but you can see my eyeball up there. But I like it a lot better because before you didn't really know where you were drawing it. And also for as far as going negative, we don't have to worry about going negative now because it just stops. Your rectangle stops, and that's also controlling your region of interest. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but it's maybe if I do it over top my skin, you can see if you got, there's just a little blue dot on my cheek there, on my cheek, and it'll actually only create a little 1 pixel region of interest up there. So it's kind of small, but it's up there anyhow. So, and we, of course, we can still right click to get rid of whatever we're doing as well. So I think this one used about 10 lines of extra code, but I think it's more user friendly. So, and like I said, it doesn't got a 1 line pixel there, so it doesn't go out of bounds on you. So I kind of like that better. So anyhow, that's my homework, and got a little long-winded there, but hopefully it's good for see what Paul comes up with for his solution on Thursday. Talk to you later. Thanks again, Paul, for all your work on